Alright, I need to talk about something that's been sitting in the back of my mind ever since finishing Spider-Man 2. And I know I made a previous video on this talking about why Spider-Man 2 was disappointing as a whole, but I want to deep dive into the story. Because gameplay wise, I think it's incredible. The swinging feels amazing, the combat is very fast, and the visuals are insane. I think that playing as both Peter and Miles works surprisingly well. On the surface, this is everything a superhero game should be, but the more I sat with it, the more I realized something fell off. It wasn't the gameplay per se, it wasn't the presentation, it was the story, the core aspect of Marvel Spider-Man 2. Because while Spider-Man 2 tries to be bigger, a little more darker, and more emotional than its predecessor, it also feels like it rushes through some of its most important moments. So today I just want to do a little deep dive on what worked, what didn't, and most importantly, how Marvel's Spider-Man 3, the next game, could fix everything. But if you guys don't know me by now, I'm Mr. Frosty Flames, who do anything gaming analysis, reviews, playthroughs, etc. And we do it in a chill way with no over editing BS. So if you like that style of content, be sure to hit that sub button and join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. Anyways, back to the video. Alright, let's start at the beginning. Spider-Man 2 doesn't waste any time. From the moment the game starts, it's already stacking a bunch of storylines, with Peter trying to balance his life, Miles stepping into independence, Kraven arriving as an early major threat, and the symbiote story building in the background. On paper, this sounds amazing. You have multiple villains, you have multiple Spider-Men, and multiple emotional arcs. But here's the issue. There's no breathing room for everything. Everything is constantly moving forward at full speed. In the first game, Marvel's Spider-Man, the 2018 one, the story had space. You really understood the world, you understood the stakes, and you understood the emotional weight of each villain. In Spider-Man 2, it feels like the story is racing itself. So first of all, let's talk about Kraven's arc. Because Kraven should have been one of the best parts of the game. He has a strong setup, he's a deadly hunter, he's obsessed with worthy opponents, and he tries to turn New York into his hunting ground. That's a perfect Spider-Man villain concept. But here's what happens. Kraven feels like a constant presence, but not a deeply explored character. We don't spend enough time understanding why he is the way he is, what drives him beyond "I want strong prey," and how he truly connects to Peter's journey. Instead, the story uses him more like a mechanical threat than a character arc, and then he's just gone. You beat him and he's gone. Not in a powerful emotional ending way, but in that happened fast way, and that's one of the first signs that the pacing was off in this game. And now we're getting to the biggest part of the story, which is the symbiote, and this is supposed to be the emotional core of the game. You see stuff like Peter's corruption and him losing control, sort of growing aggression and straining his relationships, and the parts that we do see, I feel like it really works. There are moments where you feel the tension building perfectly, but the problem is the speed. Peter's descent feels compressed. In this story, you usually need like a slow corruption, a gradual personality shift or something like that, longer internal struggle, but instead I feel like Spider-Man 2 sort of accelerates it. He goes from like slightly affected to a completely different person very quickly, and because of that, the emotional impact doesn't fully land the way it should. The idea is there and it's strong. The execution just needed more time, and I don't know how many missions you had as black suited Spider-Man, but it felt like you had like 2 or 3 missions before Miles was able to knock him out of it, and that's just not enough time for something like that. I feel like if we're gonna have a game with a bad Peter Parker, at least have him be bad 1/3 of that game, where he's straining relationships with the people around him, or he's causing problems with MJ, or problems with the society, or he's treating villains very poorly because of the symbiote. Like, I want to see more of that and not just have it be over in like 2 or 3 missions. That pacing was horrible for this game, and it was one of the things that made me dislike this game so much compared to the first. And on top of that, you have Miles' story. Now, I love Miles Morales as a character, but the problem is his storyline runs alongside Peter's, but it often feels like it exists in its own lane. His emotional arc with his family, his girlfriend, his identity as Spider-Man, and his connection to his powers is actually sort of strong on its own, but the problem is sort of like the integration. The two Spider-Men don't always feel like they're in the same story. They feel like they're in Peter's game and Miles' game running side by side. In contrast, the first game wove its own story threads together more quickly, and everything felt connected. In Spider-Man 2, the structure feels sort of more divided, and it felt like Miles' story was sort of like rushed too a little bit, and there were some dumb moments too. Like, remember that meme where Spider-Man was fighting off all those Venoms in the city while Miles was just talking to his deaf girlfriend, I forgot her name, Haley, right? It was kind of funny because Peter was fighting for his life, doing whatever he's doing, while Miles was still trying to wrap up his arc, talking to his girlfriend and doing whatever, whatever the story made him do, right? And it just was just stupid, and players didn't like it. They said that he lost aura doing all that, and frankly, I think he did. And I think the biggest missed opportunity is the character of Venom. This is the moment everyone was waiting for, and when Venom finally arrives, he's visually perfect. I love his design, I love his voice, I love his presence, I like how they made him like Harry Osborn instead of Eddie Brock. It all works, but narratively, it was really rushed. The transformation of Harry into Venom doesn't get enough slow buildup, and Venom himself feels like he arrives late and leaves quickly. Like, you can't even play as him. You have that very cool moveset where you play as him a lot, and I know they're setting up for like a, what did they say, like a spin-off, sort of like a Spider-Man Miles Morales, but Venom, but we haven't heard anything of it, so hopefully that still comes out. But anyways, for a character that should feel like he is the ultimate threat, he doesn't get enough time to fully dominate the story, and that's the biggest issue with Spider-Man 2 overall. There are too many major story beats and not enough time to fully develop them. In comparison, Marvel's Spider-Man, the first game, had something simpler, but it was very stronger. Like, you had focus, you had one main emotional story, Peter versus Otto, you had a personal betrayal and a lot of emotional consequences around that. Everything built towards a single climax in Spider-Man 1. In Spider-Man 2, you try to balance Kraven's story, Venom's, Miles, and Peter himself's arc. And while every piece is good on its own, together it feels slightly overstuffed, like the game needed an extra 5 to 10 hours to really flesh out each of these arcs. And this is the exciting part with it. We're getting Spider-Man 3, there's no doubt in my mind we're gonna get that, and Silk is gonna be a part of it, because none of this means Spider-Man 2 is really bad. It's still a really good game. It's just very disappointing and underwhelming. And Spider-Man 3 has a huge opportunity to fix everything Spider-Man 2 did wrong. So this is what I think that Spider-Man 3 should do to fix it. It's a little subplot in my video I want to go over, and I feel like you really need to slow down the pacing. You need to give major arcs room to breathe, especially if you're gonna have 3 characters, which is Silk, Miles, and Peter. You need time for each of those 3 characters to develop, especially Silk and Miles, if you want to set them up to be the future of the Spider-Man franchise. And the villains too. You need villain development too. You need to show Peter's emotional struggle as well, like him and MJ, and perhaps maybe the symbiote aftermath. Another thing is, I feel like you need better integration between the characters. Like, don't split their stories, make them collide more often, have more shared emotional consequences, shared missions, and shared stakes. And instead of having too many villains, I say focus on one major villain. And you could have a lot of villains, trust me, I love seeing a lot of villains, but have them as side stories or little side journeys along the main story to build towards that one major villain that I hope is Green Goblin. Focus on the emotional weight of it, and let one antagonist truly dominate the narrative space, and expand the symbiote consequences. I mean, don't rush past the fallout and everything that happened in Spider-Man 2. Let the aftermath actually shape the world and its characters. And at the end of the day, Spider-Man 2 is still a great game, but narratively, it feels like a story that had too many ideas and not enough time to fully develop them. And it leaves you thinking, really, this could have been way better. But this is what also makes Spider-Man 3 so exciting, is because if they learn from this, we might get the most complete Spider-Man story yet. Because sometimes a great sequel just doesn't fail. It sets up something even greater. But this is just my take on it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Did you guys think that Spider-Man 2 was disappointing? Did you guys feel like the story mode was rushed? If so, let me know what area or whose arc would you like to be expanded on more. Me personally, I really wanted the black suited Spider-Man to be expanded more. As you said, I allotted a lot of time in my video dedicated to talking about black suited Spider-Man, so that one really hit hard when it was just like 2-3 missions long. Man, that sucked. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to join the Frosty Flames Legion. Thank you all for watching. Mr. Frosty Flames out. Ciao.